Canada's Prime Minister told Donald Trump in the Oval Office on Tuesday that Canada will never be the 51st state, but only because it'll be the 52nd state after Greenland. Who's going to be 53? I can't wait to find out. I hope they tell us via smoke like the conclave. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. Look, you guys, I don't have to tell you, America loves Donald Trump. Sure, his approval rating is down to 39%, but that's only because the other 61% want him to be Pope. I saw it on Truth Social, so it must be real. You know, we're taping this before the conclave has chosen a new pope, but if you're at home watching this, just remember, black smoke means a new pope has not been elected, white smoke means a new pope has been elected, and no smoke means Trump has been elected, but he cut the smoke budget and fired all the cardinals after putting Elon Musk in charge of the Department of Papal Efficiency, aka dope. By the way, if you're Catholic and you were offended by Trump posting that AI-generated image of himself as the Pope, I got news for you. You're not actually Catholic. You're fake news.
Some Catholics were not so happy about the image of you looking like the Pope.
Oh, I see. You mean they can't take a joke? You don't mean the Catholics. You mean the fake news media. Not the Catholics loved it. I had nothing to do with it. Somebody made up a picture of me dressed like the Pope, and they put it out on the internet. That's not me that did it. I have no idea where it came from. Maybe it was AI.
Sorry, maybe it was AI? It was definitely AI. What else could it be? Maybe it was AI. Maybe it was A1. A1, what a delicious. We love A1, a delicious A1. And of course, we can't rule out that maybe it's Maybelline. You can never rule out the Maybelline. I'll tell you, it's definitely Maybelline for J.D. Vance. And when he's not offending entire religions, Trump is busy offending entire countries, like Canada, where, as you may have heard, he single-handedly swayed the election last week against the Conservative Party that had been leading in the polls for months.
In a stunning turnaround, Canadian voters backed the Liberal Party, led by Prime Minister Mark Carney. Now, just a few months ago, the opposition Conservative Party was heavily favored to win. But voters were swayed by U.S. tariffs and comments from President Trump about making Canada the 51st state.
Congrats, Donald. You turned the most polite country on earth into an enemy. This is like getting a handwritten letter from Mr. Rogers that says, "Hey, neighbor, I'm going to burn your house down." And Trump is aware of the role he played in Canada's election because he joked about it during his meeting with Canada's Prime Minister, Mark Carney, in the Oval Office on Tuesday.
It's a great honor to have Prime Minister Mark Carney with us. As you know, just a few days ago, he won a very big election in Canada. And I think I was probably the greatest thing that happened to him, but I can't take full credit.
Literally, this guy won because Canadians hate Donald Trump so much, and Trump's response is, "You're welcome." Still, it seemed like Trump was a little stung by the election results because he started the meeting, at least, with a much softer tone.
What's the top concession you want out of Canada? The top concession you want out of Canada?
Concession?
Yes.
Friendship.
It is so revealing and so deeply sad that Trump considers friendship a concession. He should write a relationship book called Art of the Friend. Chapter 1, buy low. The best friends to make are losers who don't have any other friends. That way they'll do whatever you want in fear of losing your friendship. That's how I found Rudy. Think Rudy had any other options? But the friendly attitude did not last long because Trump kept insisting, as he has for months, that he wanted Canada to be the 51st state.
Mr. President, you had said that Canada should become the 51st state. Were you joking?
No. Well, I still believe that, but you know, it takes two to tango, right? But no, I do. I mean, I believe it would be a massive tax cut for the Canadian citizens. You get free military, you get tremendous medical cares and other things.
Medical cares? Oh yeah, I'm sure Canadians are jonesing to give up their free universal health care with cheap prescription drugs in exchange for American, what did you call it again? Medical cares? A system where you pay $1,000 a month for the privilege of filling out credit card forms while you're still in the back of the ambulance. All right, looks like you have a broken arm. Now quick, you need to tell us, will you pay with Visa or American Express? Trump remains obsessed with what he considers an artificial line drawn between the U.S. and Canada and repeated his desire to see that line erased.
You know, I'm a real estate developer at heart. When you get rid of that artificially drawn line, somebody drew that line many years ago with like a ruler, just a straight line right across the top of the country. When you look at that beautiful formation when it's together, I'm a very artistic person.
It's hard to swallow that you're a very artistic person when your review of this was, maybe it's AI. I'm a very artistic person. In fact, if you look at my refrigerator, you'll see a picture I drew just the other day of me in Canada hanging out. At the top, it says friends. But Canada's prime minister confronted Trump to his face and told him he needs to get over his dreams of making Canada part of the U.S.
As you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
Having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever.
That is the most Canadian confrontation I've ever seen. I mean, sure, the text was, Mr. President, with all due respect, in real estate, some things are not for sale. But the subtext was, get your hands off, you poser. Although I will say, it's interesting how happy Trump looks. I've never seen him smile that much while someone tells him to get lost. I think it's because Carney sucked up to him by talking about real estate. Carney's telling him he's wrong to his face, and all Trump is thinking, oh, a new friend. They made the concession. In fact, Trump doesn't even seem to have a basic understanding of our economic relationship with Canada to begin with. We exchanged over $750 billion in goods in 2024 alone, or as Trump put it,
We don't do much business with Canada from our standpoint. They do a lot of business with us. We're at like 4%.
it doesn't work like if they do business with us, then we by definition do business with them. I could see him trying that logic at Studio 54 back in the day. I mean, she's married to me, but I'm not married to her, So anything we do is totally cool. So how do you know, Madonna? And look at Carney's face when Trump said it. He looks like a scientist who just read an incorrect Snapple fact. A duck quack doesn't echo. Well, that's definitely not true. Right, Waddles? It was worth bringing the duck in today. Trump may have started the meeting trying to be chummy, but he made things awkward with his inscrutable answers to easy questions about trade policy, like when he was asked if he would consider lifting the tariffs on Canada.
Is there anything he could say to you in the course of your meetings with him today that would get you to lift tariffs on Canada?
No,
Why not?
just the way it is.
I mean, the only way I'd even consider it is if Canada conceded love. No? Have I said too much? Have I pushed you away? Why couldn't I just be happy with friendship? So let's recap. This very normal meeting with the leader of our closest ally and trading partner, Trump said he was imposing tariffs on Canada in order to negotiate a better trade deal, even though we don't do business with Canada. And the only concession he wants is friendship, but it doesn't matter if they negotiate because he won't lift the tariffs anyway. And when asked why not, he said that's just the way it is. Trump answers the first question you ask him the way a parent answers the 20th question a toddler asks them. Why do I have to wear a sweater? Because it's cold out. Why is it cold out? Because it's winter. Why is it winter? Because of how the Earth orbits around the sun. Why does the Earth orbit the sun? Because that's just the way it is. Now put the sweater on. And to make matters worse, while Trump was trying to make nice with Carney in the Oval Office, his aides were on TV talking about Canada.
Can we make a deal with Canada?
I think it's really complex. I think this is really complex because they have been basically feeding off of us for decades upon decades upon decades, right? They have their socialist regime, and it's basically feeding off of America. I mean, the president calls that out all the time. Why do we make cars in Canada? Why do we do our films in Canada?
First of all, I'll tell you why we make films in Canada, because Vancouver looks like every city on Earth. You could film a movie in Vancouver and say it takes place anywhere. In fact, this is a true story. The Lord of the Rings movie, filmed entirely in Vancouver. The Eye of Sauron was already there. They just wrote it into the movie. Second, it's insane to suggest that Canada has been feeding off the U.S., but this is indicative of the completely nonsensical view Trump and his cronies have of trade. They think it's zero-sum. If we buy something from Canada, they consider that a loss, but it's not. They're our close partners of ours. We buy stuff from them, they buy stuff from us, and in the process, our people cooperate and our nations come together. That's what it means to be in a
Friendship.
This has been A Closer Look.